Laid back and kicking it, let's head back to the studio. Here's Rod.
And welcome back, everybody. Episode number 405 of Canada's daytime sports talk show continues as we are live on Game Plus television across all 10 provinces. It's our distinct pleasure to bring in Kelly Hrudey, NHL great from Sportsnet Flames, Hockey Night in Canada. Good to see his smiling face as always. I'll say happy belated birthday, Kelly. I think you'd win a lot of bets on people wouldn't believe that you turned 60, man. Still going strong, eh?
Thanks, bud. I appreciate that. 405 shows. Holy cow, Rod. That's incredible. Congratulations. That's hard work. You got to slug it out and come up with new questions and a variety of ways to make the show interesting. I give you a lot of credit, my friend.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And going to 2 hours on national television here in a couple of weeks is a feather in a cap, but it's in no small part to the buy-in. Yeah, buy-in from the sports community from guys like you. So the thank you goes to you for sure. Kelly, I've been looking at the Flames schedule and wondering how in the heck are they not playing all week? It's probably the number one question you're getting this week. And you're doing a lot of interviews and getting things done, I guess. What's the deal with the Flames schedule so early?
Well, I'm sure they would prefer to be playing as well, right? You know, they're playing really well right now. And I think everybody knows time off when you're playing really well isn't exactly what you're looking forward to. But, you know, quirky schedule, everybody's got to live with it. And I'm really getting in the groove again, Rod. So I'm really enjoying it. I've been watching tons of hockey every night. And it's a weird thing. And even with the Flames, you know, I was talking to somebody in the hockey community a couple days ago, and the momentum changes in every game, it seems, right? Like, even the Flames, they beat Vancouver on Monday, and in the first period, Vancouver was all over them, maybe the best period Vancouver had all season. They outshot Calgary 16-4, then the shots were 20-3 in the second for Calgary, and they built up a 3-1 lead. And I watched the Ottawa game last night with Winnipeg, and the same sort of thing. Just incredible momentum changes, and I don't know if it's going to change. I suspect it will. I'm hoping it's just the early part of the season, but who knows?
I'll tell you what. We had your good friends on the program yesterday, Ron McLean and Rich Sutter, and we talked about exactly that, and also that the intensity isn't necessarily there yet. But with these swings, like you say, it reminds me of junior hockey, which is actually my true passion. Yeah. It's so unpredictable, right? Which has made it a lot more fun. But I think the teams aren't getting a pass. In the NFL and NBA, if you have a slow start, shoot, coaches are getting fired. Like, there's not a lot of forgiveness for the fact that there was no preseason.
You're right. And, even like Vancouver, right? They're sort of getting slaughtered by their home fan base. Why are they off to such a poor start this year? And their power play hasn't scored at all. I think they had the 5th best power play last year. And so with basically the same talent, you wonder why, although they're missing JT Miller. But it's really interesting watching the development of the games, though, because I went to the 2 intra-squad games, Rod, the Calgary Flames had. And the first one wasn't very good, pretty sloppy. The second one was much better. And I was actually quite surprised at the level in which their game grew, their first game in Winnipeg last Thursday. So I think it's coming. I think we'll start to see a little bit better. I think I've been reading a lot in the last few days, and the coaches are talking about that as well.
You know what's funny about that is these inter-squad games in Canada have been televised, and I think the Flames did theirs digitally. They streamed it, and I'm like, I've been after teams for years to do that. You said how weird this is out of the gate, and it is weird. I hope that's one thing that stays. I don't know if the Scotia North Division will stay or not, but televising the inter-squad games, why the heck wouldn't you? Your fans want to see it. Now, you mentioned watching hockey. I've never had NHL center ice until this year because I'm a Golden Knights fan, and they've played the Flames enough and the Oilers enough and the Jets enough. They were on my normal TV, but now we don't have it. So that's going to be weird, right, Kelly? The travel and so forth. We don't see these American teams. It's taken some getting used to. I don't mind it. But, yeah, it's just a weird feeling. Do you think we're going to get used to this?
I only hesitate because I'm surprised you haven't had Game Center yet till this year. I lived with Game Center, like seriously. But in previous years, with all my travel, I would go find myself, say, a Wednesday night in Dallas or something. The Flames are going to meet me, or they're going to play there Thursday, and I would come in earlier from some other city, and wherever I was at dinner, I'd be not only with my iPad, but my cell phone and watching different games on Game Center. But yes, I think we will get used to it. In fact, I'm sort of settling into it. It's weird to go to the rink. I will tell you that with nobody in the stands. And it is weird doing an away game for the Flames when there's not even a game being played. We're just calling it off a monitor. We're trying to be as safe as possible for health reasons. But I'm starting to really get used to my home studio. I think the viewer is. I did that for the most part all through the playoffs last year until the last 18 days. Then I went to Toronto. But I think it's something that we're all sort of accepting. And it's, I hate to say it sound like a cliche, but kind of like our new norm for now anyways.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny. What a dream life you've got, right? That you're able to watch hockey. That's your job, and then talk about it. It is a great career. My family can't believe I haven't had center ice till this year either. But I mean, 17 years I worked in the Western Hockey League, as you know, and I say it's like the golf pro that never gets to golf, working at the golf course because he's running the golf course. You're a golf pro, but you never get to golf. When you work in hockey, you always got games or you're traveling, so you're kind of out of the loop with what's going on with everybody else. But you are the Flames guy, and you're a goalie guy, and I'm a goalie fan. So I just got to ask you about Jacob Markstrom. Has he met your expectations and Flames fans' expectations in the early going here?
He certainly has. And I got to tell you, I was worried starting the season because I watched, like as I said, those inter-squad games, not to put too much credence on those. But he wasn't that sharp. And I was like, maybe the pressure's getting to him a little bit. And, the nervousness of changing teams and signing a big contract, it's affected tons of guys over the years, not only in our sport, but virtually every other sport. And so he wasn't great. He certainly wasn't bad versus Winnipeg. I thought in the third period, he started to get much, much better. And then Saturday and Monday, he was terrific. But in fact, Monday, he won the game for them in the first period. As I said, Vancouver is terrific. Vancouver most likely should have had a 3 or 4 goal lead after the first period, but because of his play, he kept his team in and they were able to rebound and win the game. But he's an interesting guy over the course of his career. I believe he was a second rounder. He played 165 games in the minors, which is quite a bit for anybody. And I kept asking people, because at one time he was, I think, the number one prospect playing in the American Hockey League. And I kept asking some people, do you think he's going to make it? Do you think he has a chance to be the goaltender that everybody thought he would be at one point? And the answer was always yes. And so when he finally made his way to Vancouver, I recall having this conversation on the air, Rod, a number of years ago. Elliot was on the desk. Nick would have been on the desk with Ron, myself. And I said something like, for sure he's an NHL goaltender. I'm not convinced, and I don't know if he's ever going to be a number one. So last year or 2 years ago, I lost track of time. I said something like, I owe Markstrom apology now because he is. He's truly turned into a number one, and now the Calgary fans and the Flames are seeing that work.
I don't know how much of a Twitter guy you are, but I remember that game because Eddie Lack tweeted from Scottsdale. He's like, I'm so torn tonight because Markstrom's his guy, but the Canucks are his team. And it's just funny, following that. And the other thing, by the way, with intra-squad games, I think people get fooled by that because if a goalie gets shelled a little bit, and I don't think he got shelled, but he allowed more than you'd have liked to have seen, I think, well, maybe your shooters are great. It's like all those Rough Rider green and white games I've covered. Your quarterback throws 4 picks. Maybe the DBs are awesome. You just never know what to read out of it, right? It is practice at the end of the day.
It is. And you know what? I left there after the second one going, I shouldn't read too much into it. For one thing, the defense, they were, cautiously playing the games, I'd say. There was no hitting. They weren't blocking any shots for good reason. And some of the shots that were being taken were at 50% simply because they didn't want to hurt their own teammate with a blocked shot. So, there are a lot of things that go into an inter-squad game that you're exactly right. Just throw it out and don't even pay attention to it. But there are a couple things that you have to sort of keep your eye on. And what I really focused on was just the improvement of the play.
this goes far too fast, Kelly. In the time we have left, I just want to ask you about one thing. You're not in your home studio, but if you were, I know you would have your Medicine Hat Tigers mask there and various pictures, and you would have Alan Kaler's book, Mental Health, emphasis on the men in mental health. And Alan Kaler is a very close friend of mine, and the guys alerted me to, hey, look, Alan's book's on Kelly's desk. What is the story there, Kelly?
Well, I met, in fact, he corresponded with me on social media a number of weeks ago, maybe months. And so we sort of stayed in a little bit of contact. And then I was introduced by Clint Malarchuk before Christmas. And we had a Zoom meeting about a project they're going to have about, I think it was about men's health, but then I think it's morphing into everybody's health because that's important. That's, by the way, I'm wearing this shirt, More Good Days, because it goes back to our daughter when she started to feel a little bit better after about 4 years of getting her help. And her saying was, she'd go, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm having more good days than bad. And that was, like I said, after 4 days. And this little thing here signifies her garden, which was her happy place that we tried to get her to. So Alan's a great guy. As you know, Rod, my biggest thing is mental health, talking about it, making sure people are getting the help they need.
Well, we have a little more time to go down this road. I mean, through the pandemic, there's a lot of hockey people, sports people that are sitting on their hands. And to be honest, they're not really reaching out. And I know that they're struggling. And whatever their reasons are, they just aren't. I expected to hear from more, Kelly. And just last week, you had mentioned, some of the struggles that you'd been through. What would you suggest to people? For instance, they tell me they're watching my show every day, in the dressing room with nothing to do, that kind of thing. And what would you tell somebody that just doesn't really know how to handle their lives in this uncertain time?
Yeah, don't do it alone. It's impossible. And you put yourself through so much pain that you don't need to go through. And so talk to somebody, a loved one, a friend, somebody you feel safe with. You don't necessarily have to go public. That's not what I'm suggesting. Some people can, some people there's no need to, as long as you're going down the path of getting better. But I just find that it's a conversation you can have more freely than maybe 10, 15 years ago, and people will understand. I mean, the support I had has just been the best way to describe just heartwarming. People have reached out. People have shared their story with me about what they've been going through. And I'm just happy to say that I'm feeling a whole lot better. I struggled for over a year, and I knew something was going on. And then when I finally recognized it was something that very similar to what I went through in 92, 93 when I was playing in LA. And I talked to my wife, I talked to my kids about it, that I needed to go get help, and I did, and I feel so much better. Wow, I just feel real again, I guess, like more like myself.
Well, you know what? We call it the talking cure for a reason. Getting it off your chest. Oh. And I was speaking, well, your wife obviously has got a special spot in my heart because she's a good Saskatchewan girl. But in Swift Current, I was speaking in Swift Current in a group, and a guy jumped up on a table and he said, I don't want anybody to know. I'm in a small town. I don't want people to know I'm struggling. I said, you don't need to tell the world. But you do need to tell, you do need to tell somebody. And so, I appreciate what you're doing. I just think the world of you, Kelly, as you know, and your help with mental health is, I may even respect you more for that. And I wore 32 just because of you. So that tells you what I think about your hockey career, Kelly.
Well, I appreciate that. But I will say this, and I appreciate what you said about my work with mental health, because I will tell you this. I'm proud of my playing days. I'm proud of my broadcasting. But the best thing we as a family have ever done, the thing I'm most proud of, is our work in the field of mental health.
Well, it's a thing where it's all hands on deck, right? We'll take all the help we can get. Kelly, thanks for the time. As always, all the best in 2021, and go Flames, and I appreciate the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rod. Great chatting with you, my friend.
The great Kelly Hrudey. And we'll be back, folks, with a sports update right after this. Viewer takeover and overtime. You are watching the RP Show on Game Plus TV across 10 provinces and 31 states, live daily on YouTube, and listen live for Suds Full Service Car Wash at rodpedersen.com.